Salut! Today is all about changing singular items into plural items, specifically when you have an irregular plural form. Now, we've talked about a lot of this before, so a lot of this will not seem new. We're just adding a couple more exceptions to the rule. We do have irregular plurals in English. Normally in English, whenever you make something plural, it's just a matter of adding an S, so you change it from book to books. But again, like we talked about in class, there are some times when you don't just add an S. For example, if you have one goose, you have two geese. If you have one fish, you still have two fish. So there's all different kinds of things that can happen that make irregularities in the English language, and the same thing can happen in French. So first things first, to form the plural, remember by plural we just mean that there's more than one form of a noun in French, you change the article. So you have to change the a to some, which is the word de, or change the form of the, because remember the changes to a plural form as well, so either de or les. And then you of course have to add an S to the singular form of the noun. So you change it from le magazine, the magazine, to les magazines. You don't hear the S, but you can see it there on your screen, are the magazines. This works great except for the fact that some nouns have irregular plurals, meaning they get formed in their plural form by adding something different than an S or by not changing it at all, just like we talked about with the English language. So the first one, we've heard most of this before. If the singular noun ends in an EAU, or here's a new one, or in the letters EU, you add an X to make it plural. So you change it from le tableau, the board, to les tableaux, the boards. You change it from le jeu, which is the game, to les jeux, the games. And you change it from le bureau, the desk, to les bureaux, the desks. I realize that you can't hear the difference, but you should be seeing the difference here on your screen, and I definitely put the X's in bold so that you can notice that. Again, it's a small difference, but it's something that if you want to make sure that you're not walking around saying that I have a lot of gooses, or at least the equivalent in French, that you want to make sure that you do these changes. The next thing that happens is just like the fish situation in English, some nouns never change. And we talked about this in the last section, but I wanted to reiterate this point. Le CD, the CD becomes les CD, the CDs. Le DVD, the DVD becomes les DVD, the DVD, and DVDs rather, sorry. And you don't see a difference in the spelling. This last one is a point that is totally new to us. We haven't talked about this at all. And this is for words that end in the letters AL. Really in this section, the only one that you see is journal, and then they're starting to add the word for animal, which is animal. In those cases, when it ends in an AL, instead of just adding an S and making it journals, essentially, they actually change the AL to an AUX. Kind of similar to the other ones, so you'll get used to seeing an X at the end instead of an S for some plural items. So again, instead of le journal, the journal or the newspaper, you get les journaux, which is the newspapers. Instead of l'animal, which is the animal, you'll get les animaux, which are the animals. And again, I know you don't really hear a huge difference in that sound, but I wanted to point that out as far as what you can see on your screen. Finally, keep in mind that the numbers can be used to specify how many items. So instead of saying the books, you can get specific and say 8 books. So I wanted to remind you about that because a lot of times people forget to make things plural whenever there's a number in front of it. But just like in English, if there's a number, you also have to make it plural. So instead of j'ai le livre, I have the book. J'ai 8 livres, you'll actually have to add an S to books there. Instead of il a le journal, he has the newspaper. Il a deux journaux would mean you have to change that ending to that AUX ending, just like we talked about a moment ago. Make sure you jot down any questions and bring these notes with you back to class so that we can work on this.